So the center of mass is the balance point of an object's mass. If you were to put a pivot point at a person or an object's center of mass, the object or person could pivot around that center of mass, and that center of mass would stay there. Most human beings, the center of mass is slightly below the belly button. So that is what we're talking about when we talk about moving the center of mass or the center of mass in our swing. Males and females have slightly different centers of mass in general. The female center of mass is slightly lower than that of the males typically, and that is usually because of the increased width ratio of width of the hips for females. So keep that in mind. Now, when we're talking about center of mass, the important thing becomes the terms balance. And you hear that oftentimes. Hitters want to stay balanced or pitchers want to get hitters off balance. And this is very important. So we're going to define here static balance and dynamic balance. Static balance is basically maintaining your ability to stay balanced so you have equilibrium in your bottom as far as top, bottom, left, right, front to back in all planes. So you have multiplanar equilibrium, but static balance is balance while not moving. So if you were in your stance not moving, that would somewhat be an example of static balance. Now, dynamic balance is the ability to move and maintain that same equilibrium or balance. So as we move in our swing, and we've talked about negative moves, positive moves, load, all that, we want to be able to establish a good relationship with our center of mass. So as we go through our forward move, our load, all of that, we're maintaining dynamic balance with our center of mass. Now, I'm going to define that area right here on Mike Trout, right about there. So that is the area we're going to talk about with his center of mass. And if we play through this first clip and we pause it right there in the launch position, you can see what happens to that center of mass. It's moved down a little bit, okay? So if our center of mass is there, that has moved forward and down. So that's what we want. And that line that we've moved in, look at that. If you like geometric shapes there, we've got a pretty parallel line of the movement of our center of mass forward and down with our attacking shoulder angle. So that's really cool in my opinion. Just kind of a neat little diagram there. Now, another thing that I like to talk about when we're talking about center of mass is the relationship of that center of mass, so right there, in our nose. So if we show Trout's nose here, that relationship, we want that to have a forward attacking relationship. So we're there, and as you can see, everything's moved forward and down into heel strike, into launch position. There's his nose. There's his center of mass. It's moved forward. It's moved down and forward. And then that nose is still forward there. So that shape means literally nothing. It's just to show you how everything works in relationship with each other and how our center of mass at the launch position should be slightly behind where our nose is. That relationship should be a positive one with the nose towards the pitcher. So if we go through the whole swing here, you'll see him move that center of mass in balance to launch position, and then he maintains that balance and he basically turns behind it to contact. Here's another good example of Trout. We're going to use Trout here. All right. We've got his center of mass right about there. His nose. He's got that forward attacking angle. He's in launch. And both positions has moved forward and slightly down, and he still has a slight forward angle there, and then he turns behind that into contact. So as he hits the ground into launch, he turns behind that now, and you can see how he flips. Basically, he flips the script. So when he's in the launch position, his nose is in front of his center of mass, slightly. And now, as he makes contact, his nose is behind his center of mass. So he's flipped that script there. So that's a good thing to talk about when we're talking about how we want to attack downhill with the shoulders and then turn behind the ball. Here's another one. I stole this video. I like this because if you think about that line, if you think about this line right there, as just behind his center of mass, you can see how he moves in balance from that center of mass to the middle and then turns behind the ball. Same thing. So as we talk about that center of mass, I'll let these videos play all the way through as we talk. We want that relationship of the nose to the belly button. That nose will be slightly in front of the belly button. We want to move that center of mass forward under control. At foot strike or heel plant in the launch position, we want the shoulders to be in that forward attacking angle. And then we're going to turn behind that forward attacking angle as we turn the barrel underneath the ball, hopefully to hit just below the equator of the baseball. The important thing is to develop dynamic balance and to be able to maintain that dynamic balance through the swing by controlling the center of mass.